Politics is usually predictable. Snappy one-liners, practiced speeches, and rehearsed outrage. But what happens when wit slices sharper than any political blade? What happens when humor disarms power itself? Tonight, the unexpected is about to unfold. Ted Cruz, the unflinching senator, left in silence by none other than Jasmine Crockett. The chamber doors creak open. Jasmine Crockett steps forward with calm confidence. She isn't dressed like a gladiator, but there is something in her walk, armor invisible yet undeniable. The crowd murmurs, half expecting fireworks, half expecting another tired exchange. What they get is something different. She looks straight at Cruz, her lips curving into a small, knowing smile. "Well, Senator Cruz, I have to say, your arguments today remind me of a magician's trick. A lot of hand-waving, plenty of smoke, but when the curtain falls, nothing's really there." Laughter breaks through the chamber. Cruz presses his lips together, his eyes narrowing. This was not the opening he had prepared for. And there it was. The spark. Not an insult thrown carelessly, but humor sharpened with wisdom. The kind that lands deeper than a shouted argument ever could. The senator who thrives on control was suddenly forced onto the defensive, not by facts, but by laughter echoing around him. Cruz shifts in his chair, gripping the desk tighter. His eyes dart quickly, searching for a line, a counter, something to take back the ground he just lost. "Representative Crockett," he says finally, voice low, measured. "I expected bluster, not stand-up comedy." She tilts her head slightly, smile widening. Her tone is calm, unflinching. "Senator, I'm not here to entertain you. I'm here to expose you. If the truth sounds funny, maybe that says more about your arguments than it does about my delivery." Gasps scatter through the room. The chamber leans in. Even the cameras seem to push closer, as though the lens itself can sense history being made. In that single exchange, the tone of the entire hearing changes. This is no longer politics as usual. This is theater. This is chess. This is a viral moment already carving itself into digital memory. For the first time, Ted Cruz, the man of sharp rebuttals and relentless fire, is caught in something rare: silence. Millions would soon watch him not as the aggressor, not as the dominant force, but as a man stunned, staring into the mirror of humor, wisdom, and rare respect that he never saw coming. The stage is set. The audience, both inside the chamber and across the internet, holds its breath. What will Cruz do next? Cruz leans back in his chair, forcing a half-smile that doesn't quite reach his eyes. The room is still buzzing with the laughter Crockett sparked, and he knows he cannot afford to let that moment define him. His voice rises, sharper now, trying to slice through the echo. "Representative Crockett, if clever remarks were solutions, this chamber would have solved every problem decades ago. But we both know that flashy lines don't fix real issues." The words hang heavy, like a gavel striking wood. Some heads nod cautiously, waiting to see if he has regained the upper hand. Crockett doesn't flinch. Instead, she slowly leans forward, eyes locked on Cruz, her voice steady and cutting with quiet precision. "Senator, you talk about solutions, but when it comes time to deliver, the only thing we see is delay and distraction. If my remarks seem clever, maybe it's because the truth shines brighter when it isn't buried under excuses." A murmur rises again, louder than before. It isn't just laughter this time, it's agreement. The crowd feels the shift. Cruz clenches his jaw, trying not to let the flicker of irritation show, but it's there, written in the tightening of his grip, the quick glance at the cameras he knows are capturing every second. He steadies his tone, lowering it like a man preparing a trap. "You claim truth, Representative, but truth is not found in sound bites or clever performances. Truth is in the grind, the legislation, the late nights where people like me have fought for years while newcomers look for headlines." The chamber stiffens, the jab sharp, the implication clear. But Crockett only smiles faintly, the kind of smile that tells everyone she saw it coming before he even spoke. Her response lands softly, almost casually, yet the impact is undeniable. Headlines fade, Senator. But integrity doesn't. And when people look back, they won't remember how loud you spoke. They'll remember what you stood for, or what you refused to stand up against. The silence that follows is different now. Not tense, not waiting, but heavy, reflective, as though the entire chamber feels the sting in Cruz's place. The audience outside these walls, millions watching through screens, will soon feel it too. The chamber's air grows heavier, tension swirling like a storm just waiting to break. Cruz leans forward, his voice louder now, sharpened to pierce through the growing support for Crockett. Representative, it's easy to throw stones when you've never built anything. Easy to mock, easy to laugh, but where's the responsibility? Where's the burden of leadership? While I've stood in the trenches for decades, you've been busy auditioning for applause. The words ring with authority, and for a moment it feels as if Cruz has clawed back ground. A few scattered claps echo faintly in the room, allies trying to give him momentum. But Crockett doesn't blink. She lets the applause die on its own, then speaks, her voice calm but carrying a sharp edge that slices deeper than volume ever could. Senator, leadership isn't about how long you've stood in the trenches. It's about what you were doing while you were there. Some people dig for progress. Others just dig deeper holes. The laughter returns, bigger this time, rolling through the chamber like a wave. Cruz shifts uncomfortably, his eyes narrowing as if the sound itself cuts at him. He pounds the desk once, not too hard, but just enough to show the crack in his composure. You confuse cleverness with substance. This isn't a comedy club, it's the Senate. You think humor wins arguments? No. It distracts from the serious business of governing. But Crockett leans back slightly, her confidence unshaken, her tone almost playful yet anchored in conviction. Then maybe, Senator, it's time governance became serious enough to survive a little humor. If the truth collapses because someone laughed, maybe it was never that strong to begin with. The chamber gasps. Even the cameras seem to freeze for a beat, capturing Cruz's face in perfect stillness, the kind of stillness that tells the world he has no quick retort. His mouth opens slightly, but no words come out. The silence stretches, thick, electric. For Cruz, it is dangerous ground. For Crockett, it is victory written without needing to raise her voice. Millions watching from their screens will see not just a clash of personalities, but the moment power blinked. Cruz straightens in his chair, the flicker of silence too much to bear. His voice rises, sharper, more forceful, the kind of tone meant to dominate headlines and drown out doubt. You speak as though you've uncovered some great truth, but let's not pretend. You are new here. You haven't carried the weight of this office. You haven't borne the scars of real political battles. Words are easy, Representative, but the responsibility of leadership, that's something you haven't earned. The force of his words echoes through the chamber, his allies nodding, feeding on his anger. For the first time tonight, Cruz looks less like a senator making a point and more like a man fighting to hold his ground. Crockett lets the silence hang. She doesn't rush to respond. Instead, she studies him, the faintest trace of amusement in her eyes, the kind that unnerves more than fury ever could. When she finally speaks, her voice is steady, deliberate, and impossible to ignore. Senator, if leadership were about seniority, dinosaurs would still run the earth. Respect isn't earned by sitting in a chair for years. It's earned by standing up when it matters. And if scars are proof of leadership, then maybe the people are tired of politicians who confuse self-inflicted wounds with service. The words detonate. The chamber erupts, gasps, laughter, even a few claps from those who rarely dare. Cruz's face flushes, the practiced calm giving way to a storm he cannot conceal. He opens his mouth, but the timing is gone, stolen by the roar of the audience and the sting of her words replaying in the air. The cameras zoom closer, the lens hungry for every twitch of his expression. He forces a smile, but it doesn't land. The room feels it. The audience at home sees it. In a single moment, the narrative shifts. Cruz no longer the hunter, but the hunted. Crockett doesn't press further. She doesn't need to. She leans back, hands resting calmly, her silence louder than his arguments. The crowd feels it too. This wasn't just a rebuttal. This was a strike that left no room for recovery. For millions watching online, this exchange would become the clip shared endlessly, the quote carved into headlines, the proof that wit and wisdom can cut deeper than years of rhetoric. The chamber settles into a heavy silence, the kind that lingers after a storm. Cruz sits rigid, his jaw tight, eyes locked on Crockett. The sting of her words still hangs in the air, replaying themselves in every ear. Cameras don't blink. They wait, hungry for the next spark. For a long moment, Cruz doesn't speak. He clears his throat once, adjusts his tie, then finally leans closer to the microphone. His voice is quieter now, steadier, stripped of the fire he entered with. Representative Crockett, I don't agree with much you've said tonight. Frankly, I disagree with almost all of it. But I'll say this, you've made your case with conviction. And for that, I have respect. The words fall like a stone in still water, rippling outward. The chamber reacts first with surprise, then with murmurs, then with something that sounds like disbelief. Respect, spoken openly from Cruz to Crockett, was not in anyone's script. Crockett doesn't gloat. She doesn't even smile, not fully. She leans forward, her voice calm, carrying the weight of the moment. Senator, I'll take that. Respect doesn't require agreement. It requires honesty. And maybe if we had more of that in this room, the people outside wouldn't feel so far away from the ones representing them. The chamber erupts, not in laughter, not in outrage, but in applause. It isn't thunderous, it isn't unanimous, but it is real. It cuts across the aisles in a way so few moments in politics ever do. Cruz nods once, a small gesture, almost reluctant, but undeniable. His usual armor of sarcasm and sharpness is nowhere to be seen. Instead, for just an instant, there is humanity, a man recognizing another voice, even if it came from across the divide. Outside the chamber, millions watch. Clips are clipped, captions are written, and the internet begins its wildfire. Ted Cruz shows rare respect for Jasmine Crockett. The headline writes itself. People share it not because of the clash, but because of what followed. The crack in the wall. The glimpse of something rare. Respect in politics. In the chamber, the cameras pull back, the moment closing like a curtain at the end of a play. The debate continues, but nothing will overshadow the exchange that just took place. Two voices clashed, laughter roared, silence stung, and respect, rare and unexpected, stole the show. The chamber had shifted into an unusual rhythm. Each word, each exchange felt less like an argument and more like a revelation of character. Cruz leaned back for a moment, no longer eager to rush into his counterpoints as though he was considering not just what Crockett had said, but how she had said it. His hands, once firm on the desk, loosened slightly. The audience noticed. It wasn't the look of defeat. It was the look of unexpected acknowledgement. Crockett's voice carried again, not with the intention to wound, but to underline the truth. Sometimes humor is the only tool left to highlight what's wrong, she said, her tone steady. Because when facts are ignored, laughter exposes them. And when wisdom is drowned out, humor makes people listen. Isn't it funny, Senator, how a laugh can cut deeper than an insult? The crowd stirred, and even Cruz allowed the faintest smile to tug at his mouth, a reluctant sign that her point had landed. His reply was softer, less combative, but still edged with his signature assertiveness. You've got a way with words, Congresswoman. I'll give you that. But words, however sharp, must still answer to reality. Can humor rebuild what's broken? Can wisdom alone fix a system so divided? She didn't flinch. Instead, she leaned forward slightly, her expression glowing with quiet determination. Maybe not on its own, she said, but it can awaken people. It can spark the kind of reflection that no amount of shouting or grandstanding ever could. And perhaps, Senator, respect, real respect, means recognizing when someone else's voice has power, even if it isn't your own. The air grew dense with silence. No one had expected this tug-of-war to evolve into something resembling understanding. Cruz's brow furrowed not in anger but in contemplation. His words that followed were almost hushed, but every microphone in the chamber caught them. You make your case well, and while I may not agree with all of it, I can't deny the conviction behind it. That deserves acknowledgement. The moment hung there, delicate yet powerful, as though the chamber itself held its breath. The clash had turned into something far more significant than anyone predicted. Respect, rare and unspoken, had surfaced between two fierce opponents. And the audience, millions watching beyond those walls, could feel the shift resonate like a ripple across the country. For a brief moment, the room was suspended in silence, a silence louder than applause. It wasn't emptiness, it was weight, the kind of weight that only comes when something real has broken through the noise. Cruz, known for his relentless arguments, had let his guard down just enough for the world to see something rare: respect without pretense. Crockett's eyes softened, though her stance remained firm. She hadn't sought validation. She hadn't come to win praise. Yet the acknowledgement hung in the air like a spark that refused to fade. Her words had cut through the armor of politics, and in doing so, they revealed something unexpected. The crowd inside the chamber shifted uneasily, as if they weren't sure whether to cheer or stay still. But outside, across living rooms, phones, and streaming feeds, the moment exploded. Millions of viewers leaned forward, replaying the exchange, stunned by what they had witnessed. A senator rarely moved to open admiration. A congresswoman rarely allowed herself to laugh in the heat of a clash and still hold her ground. But here it was, humor and wisdom, colliding so powerfully that it transcended politics itself. Social media lit up. Clips of Cruz's softened words spread within minutes, headlines racing to capture the shock. Respect in real time. Cruz caught off guard by Crockett's humor. Millions touched by an unlikely exchange. Each one tried to pin down what felt almost unexplainable, a moment where opponents had stopped being caricatures of sides and revealed themselves as people. Back in the chamber, the debate carried on, but everything had changed. The words that followed felt lighter, less poisoned by hostility. And somewhere, deep down, both Cruz and Crockett knew the truth. They hadn't just spoken to each other. They had spoken to a country longing for a glimpse of humanity in the theater of politics. The cameras lingered on Cruz's expression as he offered the faintest nod, a gesture small enough to miss if you weren't looking for it, but undeniable once seen. Millions caught it, replayed it, and shared it. And in that rare nod, something touched them instantly, an echo of respect that rippled far beyond the chamber walls.